Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So, since the um, president presented the 2024 pardon, I beg your pardon, appropriation bill to the National Assembly, there have been reaction, counter reaction regarding that budget proposal, and ever since then, I've been wanting to also do some, let's call it a small diagnosis on that budget and see what that budget really has for the Nigerian people in the year 2024. So we have a budget, I think the highest in the history now, of total budgeted expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira, which is the highest we've had in recent time. Um, I think the previous administration of President Buhari did projected 21 around 21 trillion naira for the 2024, but we can see an upscale in it, and most of the of course you would expect the upscaling because of the subsidy removal and some of the revenue that will now be available to the federal government because of the subsidy removal and all. So we've expected that, even though it is still, if you ask me now, in my opinion, that budget, that amount of 27 trillion naira is still very huge, economically speaking, for Nigeria. But you trust this government, and I am being factual now with strategies and according to them, and I mean, nobody should give it to them yet, anyways. But then, I trust this government with big eye and all of that. But it's not just having big eye. How realistic is these things that are being budgeted and looked at for the common good of the poor masses? However, I said we are going to have a little diagnosis of it and see what this budget actually stands for the plight of Nigerians. Now, if you look at what has been budgeted for education, we have a total of 2.18 trillion naira, which is around 8% or 7 to 8% of the total budget. We have held at 1.33 trillion, which is 5%, and defense and security at 12%. It has always been like that, at around 3.25 trillion naira. You would expect this because subsequently it has been like that, and the question that you ask yourself is, are Nigerians really getting the security that it has been budgeted? And you always hear defense intelligence and people in that domain saying that they need more funding, they need this, that they don't have a lot of equipment, current equipment and weapon and all of that. We've been hearing that over the time, which to them is the reason why security has not been tackled or been a thing of physical progress for the time we've had. A lot of people, as of 2015 up till date, a lot of people have died as a result of this insecurity and all. But we always see budgets for defense over bloated. Always, it takes the higher chunk of any budget that is always appropriated. So we've seen that happen this time around again. But I think it will be good that we are hopeful and think that there will be some significant changes regarding the security architecture, like the president has promised, that he was going to, that this government is not going to tolerate all of those things, the security menace and all. So we are hopeful to see that play out. You come to social development and poverty reduction. I think a total of 534 billion, sorry, was also allocated, which forms 2% of the of the budget. Again, when you look at these humanitarian activities of the government and all of this, they are palliative, because that's where all of this social development whatsoever that this thing falls to. Most of the time, what were those funds, the previous funds that were allocated for this, what were they used for? You would want to ask yourself, we saw the trader money, you ask, how significant has that affected the life of Nigerians? Where are those people that really got these funds? What have they used it for? Of course, you would not even expect so much from those people that have been given some of these tokens, because they can barely do anything. Not talking of investing or getting a startup from that token. I remember trader money then. I was in a Wuse market one time in Abuja when they were disbursing this trader money to people, and 15,000, 10,000 naira, sometimes 5,000 naira. And what do that do? And that is why you will always hear His Excellency Peter Obi saying that Nigeria borrow money for consumption, that we do not necessarily channel our energy towards producing, in order that we will export so many things and get returns for them. So most of these funds, you see them do all of these things, and what do we get at the end of the day? So that was how the budget actually played out. But during that budget presentation, we did hear the president telling the National Assembly some of his plans, and those things that forms his major target, and what he has prioritized in the budget. And he was reeling out some of these things. He said he was going to take care of economic growth, of macro and microeconomics, better investment for human capital development, which has been what a lot of people have been talking about. That in that regard is a good one, that the president is targeting human development, which is the big asset of any country. And he says he was going to also look at internal security, and he was going to be very, very practical in dealing with security. So, but now looking at in like I earlier said, if we are going to diagnose this budget, what are the realities? What are some of those things that I feel are just written there? Now, you begin to see some numbers and digits that do not necessarily add up, and you ask yourself if they are doable. Now, the current debt profile of Nigeria as at the second quarter of the year 2023 has risen to the tune of 87.38 or 87.40 trillion naira. And now we have a budget that is targeting 27 trillion naira. What is the expected revenue? What is the expected projected revenue? They said they are hopeful to do a budget, a revenue of 18 trillion in the 2024, in the year 2024. Now, how realistic is that? That is one thing I want us to look at closely. How realistic is that? Yes, the subsidy removal is one area that government is going to have money now, but okay, if that is in place, what is the government? What are the plans that they have put in place to make positive to the avenue through which they are going to get some of this revenue? Is it more work and more task on the companies and people that are already paying taxes? Or what strategy are they going to do? And that is where I always have concern. I hope this strategy they are always saying, these praise singers of the APC and the president always talk about, is not one that we are going to see what happened in Lagos, where everything is about tasking. Because when you want to, I always say that Are Nigerians ready for what is happening in Lagos to happen federally? Are Nigerians ready? Because you hear them say that he did this in Lagos, he did that in Lagos, he's going to make it. What was put in place as at the time President Obasanjo denied allocation, and I use that word advisedly, to give allocation to Lagos State, was tasking and tasking and tasking. And if you've lived in Lagos before, you will hear this, and I mean, you get, and I personally get annoyed several times when we are in the box and you see how much these bus drivers are harassed, and at every point they are made to pay one levy or the other, and which almost take away everything they have made in a day. So this tasking thing is one thing I know the president for. I'm reeling out strategies that can coerce the people into paying tax, and I use this word with all sense of responsibility, because if you lived in Lagos, you would, and you've asked questions, traders and even the petty traders, they pay these things, and with so much a threat to their businesses and whatsoever it is that is their means of livelihood. So during the campaign, I was asking if Nigerians were ready, because the praise singers of the president kept on saying that he was going to replicate what he did in Lagos and did in Lagos. Are they ready for that? So in the year 2024, with this budget of 27 trillion, is what we are going to be looking at. So that's how realistic is 18 trillion naira in a year. You see, I always say, I think the previous government of President Buhari projected 10 trillion naira for revenue generation in 2024. And they did that because they knew that they were going to remove subsidy, and with that, they were going to have some kind of, the federal government is going to have some kind of leverage on revenue generation. But this is what the government has projected: 18 trillion naira. How is that possible? And remember that we still have, if you want to do a plus and minus of that budget, you look at the current debt, you look at the revenue generation, you still have a deficit of 9 trillion naira. How is that manageable? How is that? You see, and this returns us back to the question of, why is government not cutting down the cost of governance? Why is government not cutting down that? Because, fine, the constitutions allowed for 36 ministers plus one from the FCT, making 37, and then you have 6 ministers coming from the 6 geopolitical zones that represent the zone each, making a total of 43. And this government has come up with 48 ministers, creating 5 more ministries, which, if you go by their allocation, and remember, each and every of these ministers are going to have their budget, their allocation, and all of these things. How is that a cut to governance? It is even more now, you see. And so when you look at all of these things, the projected money, the deficit, and all of that, how does it really make sense in the true sense of budgeting? How are we going to make this revenue that is projected? What is in place to tackle the deficit? How is the generation? You see, these are the questions and the conversation Nigerians have been deliberating on for some days now, and we just hope that things pans out well. I saw the confidence with which the president was used to talk on the floor of the Green Chamber when they had a joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives during the budget presentation. And in his usual way, he was able to woo the crowd, and they were clapping and all of that, which to me is not what we should be doing. I think, and sometimes we Nigerians, we always leave the issues. We leave the issues to settle for things that are not necessary. Instead of us to diagnose this budget, look at the reality in it, what is doable and not. Nigerians, a lot of people just channel their attention towards the song that was sung for the president during his entry to the Green Chamber, that they were singing an APC national anthem instead of the national anthem and all of that. To me, even if that does not make sense, yes, it's true. When the president is to address a caliber of people, let me not say a caliber of people, whenever the president is present, what is normal is the national anthem that brings that sense of unity and oneness among everybody. But instead, APC turned it to a way of singing praises of the president, then with their own anthem and all of that. Even though he's a pointer, I don't think we should leave as juicy and important discussions like budget for that for that flaws and all of that. So that is what I think that we should look at. How realistic is this budget? Are these percentages that were shared among some of these things still in? To me, education should should still form a good part. Education, the allocation of education, even with this unrealistic figure that I can see, is not even enough for me. So we hope that some of these things let's see how realistic it's going to be. Already the year has ended. Let's look at how the new year is going to start, and he has told the National Assembly that he needed to effect this budget from January 1. He didn't want to start the year before looking at what he would do and all of that. So they have just this December to deliberate on it and then make it a bill and approve it. You know, I think somebody was saying yesterday that the federal government took time to put this budget together, even as unrealistic as it is. But they are giving the National Assembly no time to scrutinize it and deliberate on some of the figures and some of the things that are not okay. They are giving them just a few months, a 1 month space to do so. And the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives have committed into doing that. And I heard they were not going for recession, that they will just take a break of 2 or 3 days and then return back to deliberate on the budget and all. So what I'm actually saying is how realistic